I'm Josh Larky. This is the Dominator. I'm going to be flag planting my favorite quarterback, running back, receiver, and tight end to draft in fantasy football this year. Flag plants shouldn't be complicated. If you need 5 to 10 minutes to outline your intricate stance on a player, because it's convoluted and you need to slice and dice the data into oblivion, then that player shouldn't be your flag plant. This podcast is going to be very short. I'm having urgent spinal surgery Monday afternoon. I've been on ungodly doses of steroids, nerve pain medication, I can't talk as loudly or as forcefully as normal. My condition's gotten significantly worse the last few days too. Can't really sit up for very, very long. So I was going to stream a Best Ball Mania draft this weekend. Can't really sit for more than like 15 minutes. It's honestly pathetic. Anyway, I've been told by doctors my whole life my pain tolerance is incredibly high. I will admit, trying to live life the past 3 weeks while suffering from severe nerve pain has broken me mentally. And sometimes you have to laugh at how ridiculous the situation is. Trying to get out of bed in the mornings, I literally look like Smeagol, a gnarled form, moving in strange but weirdly deliberate ways, desperately trying not to upset my back and my hips. But good news, folks. By mid next week, I should be walking relatively pain-free and on the road to recovery. Let's do some flag plants. Quarterback, it's Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has better mobility than Josh Allen. Hurts has nearly 10 rush attempts a game over the past 3 years, at least 10 rushing touchdowns each of the past 3 seasons. Hurts even set the rushing touchdowns record by a quarterback last year with 15. Despite center Jason Kelce's retirement, the Eagles still have a top-tier offensive line, and he's going to be throwing to A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Saquon Barkley. Jalen Hurts suffered through injuries last year. He was still the quarterback 2 in fantasy points per game. The year before, in 2022, he averaged 27 fantasy points per game, the highest mark for a quarterback over the past 5 seasons. Josh Allen's the current quarterback 1 by ADP. He has similar mobility with a supporting cast that's 3 to 4 tiers below Hurts. Jalen Hurts should be the clear-cut QB1 in fantasy football. Running back. Breece Hall played with 3 bad backup quarterbacks last year instead of Aaron Rodgers, running behind an offensive line that was marred by injuries and ineffectiveness. Oh, yeah. And Breece Hall was also recovering from an ACL tear from the season prior. This is a recipe for disaster. And still, Breece Hall was the only running back to have 2 games with at least 175 rushing yards last year, the only running back to have 3 games with at least 75 receiving yards, and he finished as the RB6 in PPR fantasy points per game. What's changed from last year? He gets quarterback Aaron Rodgers back. The team signed veteran offensive tackles Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses this offseason, so the Jets are now the rare team with 2 above-average tackles on the outside. And Elijah Vera Tucker returns from injury to solidify the interior. The team brought in 30-year-old wide receiver Mike Williams, who is coming off an ACL tear of his own. So Hall also had a chance to once again finish. He might be the number 2 in targets on his team behind only Garrett Wilson. We're looking at an explosive high-volume runner that should get goal line work with a future Hall of Fame quarterback coming off an Achilles tear, who should check the ball down frequently to Breece Hall. Breece Hall profiles like a typical 101 pick in fantasy football, yet he often goes as running back 3 in fantasy drafts, middle of round 1. You might have noticed, for those watching live, I'm wearing a special edition Hawaiian shirt, courtesy of my friends at Underdog Fantasy. I'm a little nervous to run the full 1-minute promo since my time here is limited, but use promo code Underworld. Promo code Underworld, 50% deposit match up to $250. If you don't want to do math, if you put in $250, you would now have $375 in your account. You should do that. Wide receiver, Jalen Waddle. So he played all 16 games during his 2021 rookie season. He set a then rookie record with 104 receptions. As a short area target, his average depth of target, his average route downfield looked a lot like a tight end that year. The next year, Tyreek Hill joins the Dolphins. Waddle plays more of a complementary deep threat role. He nearly doubles his yards per reception to a league-leading 18 yards per catch. That year, Waddle had 1,356 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. Then last year, Waddle suffered through multiple injuries and still finished with more than 70 receptions and over 1,000 yards. He missed 3 games due to injury, but he also played under 50% of the snaps in 2 other games. So really, he played in about 12 full games. Tyreek Hill's 30 years old. He's coming off a late season ankle sprain of his own. There is massive injury contingent upside for Waddle, and he scored 28 fantasy points in the one game Tyreek Hill didn't play last year. Jalen Waddle, if everything looks normal, Tyreek Hill is healthy, he profiles like a round 2 fantasy pick. But we know that he can be a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 fantasy overall type player when Hill gets hurt. Even though Waddle should go round 2, he will most likely slip into round 4 of your home league drafts. Before we get to tight end, reminder, I'm Josh Larky. This is the Dominator for Player Profiler. I will hopefully resume late next week with my normal podcast streams for the Dominator. You can follow me on Twitter at JLarkyTweets. Tight end. Dalton Kincaid. I know his rookie season was good, not great, but still, he had 73 catches and 673 yards. Quite good for a first-round rookie tight end. The big issue with Dalton Kincaid in fantasy was he only had 2 touchdowns. For context, Sam Laporta, the golden boy, averaged just half. I repeat, the golden boy, Sam Laporta, averaged just half a reception more per game. Yet instead of 2 touchdowns, Sam Laporta scored 10. Stephon Diggs was traded to the Texans. Gabe Davis is now on the Jaguars. The team brought in high-volume, gadgety role player Curtis Samuel. Then they drafted a raw, big-bodied receiver in Keon Coleman in round 2. There is no other tight end in fantasy football who looks like his team's clear number 1 target without much overall target competition, with strong athleticism, who also catches passes from an elite quarterback, like Kincaid does with Josh Allen. Dalton Kincaid is usually the tight end 5 or tight end 6 off the board in fantasy drafts, but he could definitely finish as the tight end 1 overall in fantasy. Jalen Hurts, Breece Hall, Jalen Waddle, Dalton Kincaid. These will be my flag plants as of August 3rd, 2024 for the upcoming NFL season. I'm Josh Larky. This is the Dominator. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.